Hey you, watch the other Draftables episodes before this one, or after, I don't control you, but by episode 6, I was realizing that each mon I was featuring on the Draftables kind of naturally comes together to form a really strong Draft League team. Now, it makes sense, I covered the main archetypes and roles that I think are strong in Draft League, and I picked mons with lots of options, so it makes sense that they're going to fit on a lot of different teams, but add in Corviknight from the Steel Types episode, Dust Noir from the Trick Room episode, and then one of the low tiers from my Fire Types episode because you can't grab all killers. And this team is starting to look super deadly. Like, it's got beautiful speed tiering, good type synergy, ton of offense, defensive tools, speed control. But I started to wonder, how would I finish this team? And how would I finish the Draftables series, at least for now? And my home league, the VBLS, gives you 110 points to pay for 11 Pokemon. By my count of their draft board, these 9 would leave me with about 12 points left. So enough space to draft at least one more good Pokemon. So what would it be? Maybe something that resists Ice or Rock or Fairy. Steel types resist all 3, so maybe I could grab a Berserker. Like, that would give me more Fake Out, the best move in the game. It would give me Steely Spirit to boost up Corviknight. That's one answer. Maybe I could add a low tier redirector like Togepi. Togepi would help me set up Trick Room and Tailwind and help my offensive mons start killing. It would force my opponents to run Steel type moves and Poison type moves, which would hit nobody but Togepi. And it would just give me another really slow option, which would help me win the Trick Room matchups. That's another way you might finish out this team. Comment below. I would love to hear what mon you would add to this team to help make it pop. I would love some spicy suggestions. But the solution I ultimately went with is a concept that has worked for me in some of my draft leagues, but I've never quite heard articulated before, and that is double water. The idea that water types are so solid, so reliable, and there are so many good ones, they're the first type you want to be drafting 2 of in your draft league roster. And water types more easily complement each other than any other type in draft league. That is what I intend to be arguing today, that double water is solid. It might even become part of your standard playbook for drafting. We're going to talk about pairs of water types that synergize, cover different styles, cover for each other's weaknesses. I know that I can't cover the whole water type, right? We'd be here forever. We have to talk about rain for a really long time, but I can dig into a concept that I think has potential. I can, in typical Draftables fashion, talk about some low tiers and use kind of the research and analysis tools that you can apply when preparing for your next draft. You ready to get into it? I hope you are, because I am. We'll start a little bit at the highest level, that water type is an abnormally gifted defensive typing. I mean, not only the water types as a class have higher in all 3 defensive stats than the average fully evolved Pokemon, but every type's got at least 3 weaknesses, right? With the exception of normal type, which resists nothing, Ghost type, which interacts with very few other types, and then water type. Water type's only weak to 2 and resists 4. Broken. And not only that, but the 2 types trying to hit water super effectively are very flawed as attacking types. These are the best physical moves. For grass, it's Leaf Blade, and like half a dozen mons can actually use it effectively. The best physical electric type move is Wild Charge, and like that's just worse. Like, it gives you recoil damage for no reason, so it's worse than most other types they have access to. The only broadly distributed physical move that's good against water types is Thunder Punch. And Thunder Punch is low base power. This is the second strongest Thunder Puncher, with the exception of electric types themselves. And the average water type lives it just fine, even Life Orb. Like, Araquanid is actually slightly less bulky on the physical side than the average mon. The mon that's totally middle of the road physical bulk among water types is Rotom Wash. And like, you might think, oh, Rotom Wash is so bulky, right? Well, no, it's actually got exactly average bulk, but what makes it feel so bulky is its incredible defensive typing, water, and a natural resistance to one of water's 2 weaknesses, electric. So when you appreciate how good water is defensively, then all of a sudden it becomes very easy to draft 2 water types that share 0 weaknesses at all, right? One of them is a water ground type, and so it's immune to one of water's 2 weaknesses. You add on any of these 6 types to a water type, and it's not weak to grass anymore. So it's pretty easy to find a combo of 2 water types that share no weaknesses. Here's one example right here, our first showcase. Golisopod. What? Our first showcase is a Golisopod. Well, I'm trusting y'all are the for real Draft League players. Other people can tell you how great Primarina is, but Golisopod really impressed me when I looked into it. This is a mon as strong as the Zapdos brothers, bulkier than the average fully evolved Pokemon on both sides, especially that enormous defensive stat, and it's got some killer coverage here. Close combat plus ground plus rock hits basically whatever you need super effectively. We've got a pair of good offensive stabs and a pair of good stab priority moves. So what's the problem? We are slow and our ability is often negative. Emergency exit involuntarily swaps you out of battle when you drop below half health. Now, I only think that's a problem when you would lose your turn, right? You get hit first, and then you swap out before you get to move. We're going to build in ways that allow Golisopod to go first. That means getting under Trick Room, but it also means putting a priority move on basically every build. Let's check it out. Here we go, Choice Band. Get under Trick Room and win with one Trick Room. Choice Band liquidation is Oko after Oko after Oko. And if for some reason we're not in Trick Room, we're out of position, then we can just Choice Band Aqua Jet for some real damage, and we're never gonna lose our turn in that circumstance. Assault Vest is a more durable Golisopod that allows it to take some hits without triggering emergency exit, and also trigger emergency exit without dying, right? So you should be able to get 2 first impressions out of the deal. A priority move that you can only use on your first turn out. You come back the second time with another first impression, and you can just deal reliable damage. You know, Leech Life is on every set here because it's just such a good move. Power and healing. This is a mon that has both power and flexibility with the Life Orb. You can run one good stab move and then one good priority move. This could also be Leech Life and Aqua Jet if you wanted to. You could also run the Sucker Punch if that's what fits the matchup. But then you get a space to run Protect, space to run Taunt or Wide Guard. You can even commit to a more supportive Golisopod that triggers emergency exit when you're ready, that Wide Guards for a couple of turns. Struggle Bugs are really nice for those special attack drops, and then just some reliable stab. Like, look at some of these calcs. This is a mon capable of Okoing with a priority move. Like, obviously this is like some pretty ideal circumstances, but it means that anything weak to Aqua Jet is probably being taken down in 2 shots. This is a mon that can Oko with priority moves, like Move Over Rainbow Drampa, like Close Combat Okoing Snorlax. What? This is a mon that can live stab super effective moves. What is going on here? Life Orb Dragonite is very strong. Tyranitar Stone Edge, stab super effective Stone Edge. Golisopod is for real. Do not sleep on this mon and its stats. So this is a mon worth supporting, and the best way is Wheezing, right? Turning off the abilities is a real hassle to the opponent, but it's good for Golisopod. Also, Wheezing's weaknesses are Psychic and Ground. What crushes Psychic and Ground more than Bug and Water? So a very good combo here. I don't think you need to get Wheezing Gigas to justify throwing Golisopod on here. I think this is a real threat, and this is a mon that I would pay 8 for, but saying in the right circumstance, when you've got Wheezing by your side, or you've got like the Prankster Worry Seed that Whimsicott has to be able to swap Golisopod's ability out, then this is a mon that is pretty flexible, that in the right circumstance is like a core member of the team. But on average, maybe don't grab it unless you're ready. You ready for another good second water type that can handle the grass mons for the other one, but also do a lot of interesting things that you might want depending on the matchup? Well, Quillfish. Now, Quillfish is not for the amateur chef. This is a spicy fish. Look at these stats. If you try to use it as a generic water type, you're going to be disappointed by these stats. But you use Quillfish for all of its interesting ingredients and attributes. Intimidate. Water type Intimidate's hard to come by. We've got Haze and Acupressure. Those are some rare moves. Taunt and T-Wave and Destiny Bond. Who's got all of that? Like, we've got Speed Control, Damage Augmentation, like see Draftables Episode 2 on Alolan Persian to see how good this combination is. We've got Priority, we've got Burns, we've got Setup, we got lots of different stuff. So one of your water types can be just like a heavy hitter, boom, 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 attacking water type, where as you see a Quillfish in Team Preview, you're not sure exactly how to take it. I think the Bread and Butter set might be a more defensively oriented support. You use your defensive investments and Intimidate to live most hits, maybe a defensive item as well. But then we have the option of doing Speed Control, or boosting our partner, or taunting, shutting down Trick Room or Setup, or just a nice stab move. This is a usable attack stat, so this mon could be an attacker. I was impressed by how many Okos my Life Orb Slowking took in High Roller, so Quillfish is nearly as strong. Stab, stab, nice, and then this move also, it hits and it boosts speed, so Quillfish has nice enough speed that after a boost, you can outspeed basically whatever you want. This is like a setup sweeper, so Mystic Water boosted, Swords Dance booted Aqua Jet, might be some Okos, definitely Okos off Liquidation, so we have the option to be very strong while also Intimidate. Good combo there. So this is like maybe the mix-up here is we can even set our own rain or have someone else set our rain and be a nice cheap Swift Swimmer. It's very, very fast, 300 speed in rain. So what are we doing with all that speed? We're doing speed control for our partner. We're doing acid spray into double damage attack. Fast burn could really make the difference. Without Intimidate, we might not live a lot of hits, so a Focus Sash would be helpful, but this is a nice versatile mon. I think the main value prop of Quillfish is its defenses, so we need to take a look at a couple of calcs. Remember when we used to not talk about calcs and draftables, and then we just go deeper and deeper? That's where I'm at now. But Swampert, a pretty strong stab Earthquake. That's about where we can live with Quillfish. However, have you forgotten Intimidate? With Intimidate, we are very, very physically bulky. Like, we're living some of the strongest stab super effective moves with the benefit of Intimidate. Now, the special side is what we have to worry about here. So we're kind of living like a relatively strong super effective move with some extra investment, but like a really strong mon set threatening us with a super effective special move, we're not actually living. And this is ultimately the limitations to, we've got all these moves, but we just don't have quite the stats to make use of them as much as we'd like. Maybe we would rather have two mons that have one half of each side of Quillfish's move pool, but each have better stats. So I'm a little hesitant to recommend Quillfish at the end of the day. I do think you need to be kind of an expert chef to use all of these tools effectively. However, why we're recommending it today is because in Gen 9, in a few months from now, it will gain access to Eviolite. A new evolution is coming to Quillfish, and that means Quillfish can be bulky with the benefit of Eviolite. Very, very bulky on the physical side. Like, we were already living the strong, high horsepower with Quillfish, so now we're living the choice banded Excadrill high horsepower when we have Intimidate up. So really, really absurdly bulky on the physical side. But is our special defense good enough that we are a good defensive Pokemon? I think we're basically there. We can live that attack that we had no chance living before, that strong stab special hit. We can live Rotom Thunderbolt. We can get there. I think this is all of a sudden good without qualifiers Pokemon, a very good defensive Pokemon. I'm thinking it'll be about 11 points on a scale of 1 to 20 next generation. So stay tuned for Quillfish Madness. Oh geez, it's getting dark and I'm only halfway done because I did too many takes. So for the first time, I'm moving on to a second day of recording. Please leave a like below as I slowly go insane. One day later. Okay, happy tomorrow. We're talking about water types, how they're super solid, how many of the mons meant to check them, like grass types, can't, because all these water types have secondary typings that allow them to cover grass mons and just not fear them. Another way that you can stack multiple water mons on your draft squad without fearing grass moves is Sap Sipper. Now, Sap Sipper is like better than immunity. You take 0 damage from grass moves, and you get a 50% attack boost. Huge, especially on a mon like Bouffalant, already pretty strong. The Sap Sipper boost turns it from a 2-hit KO machine to a 1-hit KO machine. Like, this is a mon being generally slept on, so I wanted to showcase it. I looked at 3 draft boards, VBLS, WBG, WPF. They all had this guy at 4 points, which I don't quite understand. You might not know those acronyms, but a lot of places are sleeping on this because it has really good stats. Normally, you might be concerned about a middling speed, but if you're not getting O-code by anything, which this guy has really solid overall bulk and only 1 weakness, you're normally going to get your shot in. And Head Charge is 120 base power, 144 base power if you've got Reckless. That hits just about everything really hard. And so the perfect Bouffalant set kind of writes itself, right? Head Charge to hit everything, and the few things that it doesn't hit are Ghost, Rock, and Steel, which we can cover perfectly with either Fighting or Ground or Dark. So Head Charge hits everything, one of these 3 to hit everything else, Protect probably, and then some setup move. Swords Dance can make us strong on our own, Cotton Guard, an elite defensive boosting move. We can also make ourselves especially really bulky. And so there's not a ton of variety in how you run Bouffalon. It's either whether you're bringing it or not. But as long as it's on your 6, nobody can throw out a grass move without some risk. Even if it turns out to be reckless, like, you're protecting your water types. And so I'm not sure exactly how much I would pay for it. I could find a lot of times to pay maybe 6 points for it, but if it fills a clear role, like protecting my water mons, then it's draftable, and I'd be willing to pay even more in the right circumstances. This is a solid, strong, normal type mon. And so I think I've made a pretty good case for what I believe to be the largest hole in the entire type chart in all of Pokemon. Well, the first one is that steel types are too good, but the second one is that grass types are bad. They're worse than they need to be, and they struggle in a lot of ways, and the pain of grass types is the gain of water types. They only exist to be water types, right? Because they're good against, water, rock, and ground. Water types are also good against rock and ground. So the grass types are you only ever need one in order to beat water types, and a lot of water types can handle grass types on their own. There are special answers like Sap Sipper to deal with grass types. This was one of my best teams. Did not have a grass type because I was beating water types with electric type moves, maybe some grass coverage on mons like Celesteela, but I just didn't feel like I needed them because this is just generally a sorry lot. Like, there's a couple of great elite grass mons like Rillaboom, Kartana, but in Draft League only one team can get them, and so you're going to find a lot of teams with a hole in beating water types. It's just generally hard to do. And so I frequently found that the best way to handle a water type is a better water type on my side of the field. Like, another reason Primarina is top tier, there's a few reasons, but it's a water type that counters other water types by having Energy Ball. It's got huge special defense, so most of the things coming after water types are special attackers, and so you can take that hit, Energy Ball them back, Ice Beam them back. Most water types have access to ice moves, and it's just yet another reason why they don't fear the grass types. But the water type duel is very important, right? If you're winning the water type duel, then there's just not a lot that can beat you. And so I've been saving my top tier second water type. Ludicolo is the best second water type to add to your team, right? It's the best, in my opinion, Swift Swimmer. After a Politoed or Pelipper, the two automatic range setters, you add Ludicolo to your team, you don't even have net weaknesses, despite the fact that you've started off with 2 water types. Ludicolo is a water type that is not weak to grass, not weak to electric. It beats other waters by having grass stab. It's incredibly versatile, and I'm really, really impressed. Normally we don't talk top tiers on the Draftables, but this guy is important to the thesis of why water types are so solid and you can put multiple on them. There's just not a lot that beats this guy. Like, water plus grass plus ice is nearly perfect coverage, and we have the best move in the game, Fake Out, and we have Icy Wind for speed control, and we have Knockoff. Nothing likes getting knocked off. We even have a physical set that's useful. You're gonna have to look up Swagger plus Own Tempo and see that interaction if you're not aware, but we can turn this mediocre attack stat into a very good attack stat while having really interesting coverage. Not only stab, but like Drain Punch, Thunder Punch, Fire Punch on a water mon. What is going on here? This mon has so many different tools. We have Encore, a really fast Encore is devastating. We've got a lot of different support moves, a lot of different attacks, a lot of utility attacks, a lot of value in our utility attacks. So there's nothing that can really handle Ludicolo. It exerts a lot of control over the game while having a great time. I love this guy's vibe. That is kind of the style of water types, of calmness, of de-escalating the situation, and in so doing, in de-escalating the situation, you control the situation, and that's what water types have going for them. There is one weakness to water types that I haven't gotten into. Ludicolo, it looks like it's not weak to any of the things water types are weak to, not weak to grass or electric, but there is one thing, and I'm not talking about Storm Drain. There are 3 mons that get Storm Drain. It's a problem. Redirecting water moves is a problem, but only in max 3 matchups. The real big boss for water types, why they can't just control the game all the time, is Freeze Dry. What a ridiculous move. An ice type move that is, as its bonus effect, is also super effective against water types. And so we had this perfect counter here. Normally Ludicolo wouldn't even be weak to ice moves, but against Freeze Dry, it's 4x weak. So Pelipper, not weak to ice moves, but 4x weak to freeze dry, it's such a problem. Now, freeze dry is contained by the fact that it's mostly on ice type Pokemon who are generally bad, but it's just something we really have to worry about. It's something also that we can use to our advantage, right? There are a couple of freeze dry mons that are viable. There's even the ultimate water counter is not Ludicolo. An even better water counter is a water type with freeze dry. Enter Arctovish. Arctovish, super weird mon, and generally slept on. Not Dracovish, definitely not Dracovish. That speed allows it to never be Dracovish, but we can be something else. We can be a mon with Vicious Rend, the move that is ridiculously powerful when they go first, and freeze dry. And so those two tools make Arctovish unique. Being the ultimate water counter with freeze dry means that we can protect a water type that normally wouldn't win the water type duel. Like currently, my draftable squad has Swampert, which is a water type, but because it's ground, it's not resisting water, and so it's a little scared of the water versus water duel. It's also why I have Drampa, fun fact. Sap Zipper mon, Sap Zipper plus double weak to grass, pretty good combo right there. But we basically have perfect coverage with the two strongest attacking types, Ice and Rock, plus a Vicious Rend for everything else. We have a mon that is good enough that it is worth supporting, right? Give this guy Tailwind, give this guy Hail if you're willing to invest into Hail, because Slush Rush's double speed can make this guy outspeed everything and Vicious Rend them all to death. This is kind of good for Hail modes because the water typing, such a great defensive typing as we've been seeing, allows it to not this Ice mon to not be weak to Steel, which is kind of nice, not be weak to fire, and so it's a good Hailmon. I think it is worthwhile with your Ninetales Alola or your Ice Cream Cone. I have Sap Zipper. I have sample sets, another double S, available for this guy. I think the default is just to try to hit really, really hard with Vicious Rends. Choice Band if we can get our speed via either Tailwind or Icy Wind or Hail, but we can just run Scarf, right? This is a mon fast enough to outspeed things with Scarf. Not everything, unfortunately, but a number of things. So we can generate our own speed control in a worst case scenario. Water plus ice, very, very strong, and a dual stab combination, pretty nice. We can have power while having flexibility if we run Life Orb. Then we can be mixed. So that's a pretty wide threat bubble, and just Arctovish is hitting everything hard with Vicious Rend, also having a strong physical ice move, but for the few things that counter both of them, like the Ludicolos and Pelipper's, then we've got that 4 times effective freeze dry. We can run Arctovish pretty durably, right? Like, this is a mon with good defensive stats, which is why I'm surprised that it's sometimes so cheap. I think it's cheap because Hail mode is generally just not well regarded and you need to invest a lot in your Hail setter. But considering this guy does not need to be in Hail, and there are a lot of mons that can manually set Hail if you want to win the Slush Rush game plan once or twice, this is, I think, a pretty useful mon. This is the water type anti-water with freeze dry. We can be a special attacker. Brine it doesn't have the best water coverage, but Brine becomes super powerful if you're at half health or less. So Substitute and some durability can allow us to reliably get into that range. So we can throw off 130 base power Brines could be good. We could even set our own Hail. Like, there are worse things than setting your own weather, especially without Dynamax. We're considering this analysis without Dynamax. Not a lot of mons have access to changing the weather, or not a lot of mons are going to, and so you can use that to your advantage. Set your own Hail, set your own Aurora Veil, Blizzard everything, and of course, the Vicious Rend. This is the Vicious Rend machine. But having Vicious Rend and Freeze Dry is by itself a good value in a Pokemon. This is a draftable Pokemon. This is a mon you do not need to bring Hail or draft Hail just to make useful. I think 9 points is justifiable, considering it beats one of the best types in the game, water types, with that Freeze Dry. So I've got one more water type to showcase, showing that Some water type like Arctifish can be super powerful. Some water types can be like Quillfish can be versatile and support oriented, and how you can easily get 2 water types that fill very different styles. This is a mon meant to be a very fast support, and it's 2 points on the VBLS tier list and 1 point on a couple of other tier lists. It is bottom of the barrel, but it is very much draftable and bringable. That is Poliwhirl. This mon has value because in rain, it's got Swift Swim, so it's over 300 speed. It is going first, and what is it doing? It could maybe burn you, it can maybe cut your accuracy, but it's got speed control. Very fast plus speed control equals value. Very fast Encore means you cannot protect in front of a Poliwhirl. Very fast Haze means no setup is worthwhile in front of Poliwhirl. Fast Hypnosis means you can win the game 60% of the time if you're willing to click Hypnosis. I can even find a couple of worthwhile sets on Poliwhirl. The physical Belly Drum set is something that people are not going to prep for the 2-point Poliwhirl, but that's to Poliwhirl's advantage. Like, even if it was 4 points, which I think it's worth, to be honest, you're still going to catch some people by surprise by belly drumming. It's not a great attack stat, but times 4, your attack stat almost doesn't matter at that point. You're going to get OHKOs. Water plus ice coverage is basically perfect, but we do have Brick Breaker EQ for a couple of other mons. This is a mon with real control over the game. Encore Haze, Icy Wind, Helping Hand, Hypnosis. That is a real supportive moveset while being able to deal reasonable damage, while being able to help us in the water type duel by being potentially immune to water types. And with the almighty Eviolite, we're not even frail. Like, we've got real stats with Eviolite. So you can't grab 4 Eviolite mons, but if you grabbed 1 or 2, then you can consider that part of the package. This is a mon with real value, and I think it has to do with the overall value of water types. That is what makes this so good. The frequent presence of their own speed control, Icy Wind, and Swift Swim is really, really compelling to me. We've now showcased 5 water Pokemon and 1 Bouffalant that all have distinct niches and areas where they can be valuable. There's so many more good water types besides the ones I talked about, but we're starting to understand why I think 2 water types should be the standard, why you can put 2 water types on your team with very little redundancy if you're picking wisely, because there are like classic water types that handle most circumstances, like Tapu Fini and Primarina are great in lots of circumstances, but they're not fast. They don't control the game from turn 1, while Intimidate Quillfish can control the game from turn 1. If you fake out Rain Dance, Poliwhirl is over 300 speed and control the game from turn 1. Barraskewda is over 200 speed on its own, so that could be your fast mode water use case, while Golisopod could be your Trick Room water value. So you can have the supportive water type while you also have a Wrecking Ball water type in Arctifish. So all 6 of these Pokemon, I think, could be nice along with my Swampert on the Draftables team. Swampert really fears grass moves, but all of the mons we showcased have different ways to address grass moves, whether it's bug typing, poison typing, freeze dry, sap sipper, like really, really good protection for Swampert so that we can win the water type duels, so that we can beat back the grass types. I would be happy with any of them. Ultimately, what I decided to go with was Quillfish. Because I didn't want to break the bank, I do actually have to fight for these Pokemon. I can't just pick whatever I want in a normal draft. So this would leave me with a couple extra points if I couldn't get something and had to pay a little bit more for something else. But Quillfish was nice because it resists water. That's always nice for for winning the water type duel. But it resisted ice and it resisted fairy. So that's what the poison type provided was I was no longer net weak to fairy. It provided me mixed utility so that Persian could be, Specs Snarls if I really wanted to, while it's being protected by Intimidate Quillfish. It could be really fast if I wanted to set up Rain for Swampert. It can sit on the same field as Swampert because they share no weaknesses, and because I have 2 birds here, so I'm not concerned about the ground weakness. And so I'm really happy with the team made of mons from the Draftables. I'm even taken to calling it the Dreamables. I think it would be a dream to draft all these guys, but it would also just be really fun to use them. So I'll open this up to a couple of exhibition matches. If you have my Discord, reach out to me there. Take one of your drafts against the Dreamables team. See who wins the day. Maybe I'll post 1 or 2 of those to YouTube. But in the meanwhile, I'm happy with the Draftables series. At 10 episodes, I've covered some of the main deeply held opinions I have from playing this game a lot. Thank you all for watching. I really mean it. You've made this a wonderfully rewarding creative endeavor. And as one final request, share this with folks who are trying to level up in Draft League and your friends who might want to get into Draft League, because I think this is a good argument for why this is the most strategically deep and fun way to play Pokemon. In Draft League, you have to consider all the options. In Draft League, mons that would never see the light of day in tournament are all of a sudden useful. In Draft League, imagination is your greatest gift. As long as you can do the research, look at your tools available to you, and then imagine what if, anything can work at least once in Draft League. So with that, I am the Jordan, signing off.